Hello all and welcome to TBM Academy. This is VARC 100, a free practice course for CAT verbal section. RC number 28 of the series. You may solve this RC before you watch this video. The PDF is available on our Telegram group and it has also been uploaded as a test on our portal, the link to which is available in the description box of this video. RC number 28, let's begin. A quick synopsis of the passage. In the first paragraph, author tells you that Samuel Johnson emphasized the importance of spontaneous and vivid detail in literature. In the second paragraph, he tells you that Samuel Johnson, just like romantics, appreciated emotional appeal in a work of literature rather than strict adherence to the rules. And in the last paragraph, author tells you that even in poetry, Samuel Johnson was unlike other neoclassical critics, and he appreciated the use of special vocabulary, special words to create a emotional effect and to connect with the readers. So basically, this passage tells us that Samuel Johnson was not like other neoclassical critics. He was more like romantics who appreciated emotions in a work of literature or emotionality, sentimentality in work of literature. He was not very rigid for rules, for adherence to rules. Question number 1. The author of the passage develops her point of view about Johnson primarily by doing what? Okay. The author develops her points about Johnson primarily by doing what? Option A, by contrasting Johnson's critical methods with those of his contemporaries. Now, a tempting choice, this is correct. Time and again, author has given us a comparison between Johnson and other neoclassical critics, that is his contemporaries. But is it the primary structure of the passage? Well, maybe, maybe not, because if author were to contrast Johnson's critical methods with the other contemporaries, throughout the passage, you would see such a structure, a contrast structure. Johnson said this, but neoclassical critics said this. Johnson said this, but neoclassical critics said this. Throughout the passage, you would see such a structure. So it may be the correct answer because maybe, once or twice in the passage, author has mentioned, about the differences between Johnson's critical methods, critical approaches, and other neoclassical critics' critical approaches. He does mention differences between them, but author does not develop the passage in the form of a contrast. The structure, the thematic structure of this passage is not compare contrast. The more focus is on Johnson's, and in the passing, in the discussion, in the course of discussion about Johnson's critical approaches, author in the passing mentions other neoclassical critics, how he was, unlike other neoclassical critics, and also how he was similar to, or his methods were similar to romantics. So basically, the focal point of discussion is Johnson only. It's not a contrast kind of structure that we see. So maybe let's keep this option for the while. Option B, citing specific illustrations drawn from Johnson's work. Okay, a better answer choice. Why? So in the in the second paragraph, author cites this illustration from his work in quotes. Johnson wrote this. So this is one illustration. In the second paragraph, again about Cato, Edison's Cato. What did Johnson think about this work? Author again cites from his work, right? And in the last paragraph, again, he mentions what Johnson thought of poetry as well. So yes, author cites specific illustrations drawn from Johnson's work. That is a better answer choice. This thing we get to see throughout the passage consistently. So maybe this is the correct answer. Option C, alluding to contemporary comments about Johnson's theories. Author does not mention what others thought about Johnson's work, but what Johnson thought about others' work. So this is converse or simply alien. Option D, by quoting Johnson's remarks about the critical approaches prevalent in his own day. A tempting choice again. However, though Johnson has been quoted, he has been quoted, all these three quotes that I highlighted earlier, these are Johnson's quotes. So Johnson has been quoted, but about others' works and not about the critical approaches prevalent in his own day. He is not criticizing literary criticism. He is giving his opinion on poetry. He is giving his opinion on the literature in general, in prose, in literature, about prose or about literature in general. He is not giving his opinion about other people's literary criticism. Therefore, option D, this part is factually incorrect. About the critical approaches prevalent. This part is alien or factually incorrect. So it's between A and B, and as discussed earlier, option B is a better choice because primary focus is Johnson, and in the course of discussion about Johnson, author does mention neoclassical critics, romantics, etc., but they are not a main character of this passage. Okay. Question 2, the passage implies that the judging literary works according to there's some syntactic error here. The passage implies that judging literary works according to preconceived rules is what? Now, please note, author says, second paragraph, he says, Johnson was well aware, for example, of the sterility of literary criticism that is legalistic or pedantic in nature. So basically, if literary criticism becomes too rule-oriented, too rule-centric, it becomes sterile. Sterile means, useless, okay, ineffective, as was the case with the worst products of neoclassical school. Okay. Now, this is author's point of view. The writer of this passage's point of view, not Johnson's point of view only. So he says, Johnson was well aware that a literary criticism which focuses too much on rules of writing ultimately becomes ineffective, as was the case with worst products of neoclassical school. So according to the author, some products of neoclassical school, some neoclassical literary criticisms were sterile because they were too rule oriented. Okay, option A. It tends to lessen the effectiveness of much modern literary criticism. Actually, it should not be modern, it should be neoclassical. So this part is problematic here. We're talking about the futility of neoclassical works because of their too much reliance on rules of writing. Okay. Option B, is the primary distinguishing mark of the neoclassical critic? No. Was the primary neoclassical technique? No. Against which the romantics rebelled? No. Alien. There's no rebellion. It characterizes examples of the poorest neoclassical criticism, worst products of neoclassical school. So paraphrase, poorest neoclassical criticism. Option D should be the correct answer. So judging literary works according to preconceived rules characterizes examples of worst forms of neoclassical criticism, worst products of neoclassical tradition. Okay. According to the author, Johnson's defense of Shakespeare's latest plays illustrates Johnson's reliance on which of the following in his criticism. Now, it is mentioned that note in particular the basis of the defense. He defended Shakespeare's latest plays, and what was the basis of that defense? That this practice is contrary to the rules of criticism, will be readily allowed. So he accepted that this Shakespeare's work is contrary to the rules of criticism, but there is always an appeal from criticism to nature. The sentiment thus expressed could easily be endorsed by any of the romantics. So basically, romantics also were in favor of such viewpoint. The empiricism it exemplifies is the vital quality of Johnson's criticism. So what is the vital quality? Empiricism. Empiricism means experience-based approach. Experience-based approach. Okay. So The empiricism it exemplifies is a vital quality of Johnson's criticism. So Johnson relied on which of the following? His own experience, which means option D is the only choice that comes even close. Option D. Where does this come from? His own experience and judgment. The next part of the same sentence. It is a vital quality of Johnson's criticism, as is the willingness to jettison the laws of criticism when to do so makes possible a more direct appeal to the emotions of the reader. So his own judgment. When should he ignore the while analyzing or evaluating a work of literature, Johnson took a call whether he wants to go by the rules of literature or he wants to analyze this piece of work, jettisoning the rules or ignoring the rules because it has emotional appeal. So it was based on his own experience and judgment also. So option D is the correct answer. According to the passage, Johnson's opinion of Edison's Carto was what? Please note, what did he say about Carto? He said, Carto affords a splendid exhibition of artificial and fictitious manners and delivers just and noble sentiments in diction easy, elevated and harmonious, and the but part is always important. Yeah, so basically Johnson says Edison's Carto was okay, it was good in some aspects, but its hopes and fears communicate no vibration to the heart. So it is bland and it is ineffective. It has no teeth. It does not convey or communicate any emotion to the heart. It does not appeal to the emotions of the readers, which means ultimately, according to Johnson, this piece was bland. So ultimately, it was negative. Johnson's opinion is therefore ultimately negative. Ultimately negative. Why ultimately negative? So he appreciated some aspects, but he says that ultimately it does not convey any emotion to the heart. So his opinion is ultimately negative. Okay. Last question. Johnson's views on the use of a special diction in the writing of poetry were what? So it was written here, last paragraph, Johnson's views on poetic diction are surprisingly modern. And why were they modern? Because he thinks that the poetic diction should serve the ends of direct emotional impact and ease of comprehension. So that this is why his views were different and modern. So option A or option D remain. They were not neoclassical. As a matter of fact, they were against the neoclassical. They were not romantic. They were not romantic really. There's no comparison. There's no similarity drawn between Johnson's opinion and Romantic's opinion in this context, in context of poetic diction. So option A or option D. Now, option A says his views were modern in their rejection of a clear-cut division between the diction of poetry and that of prose. So basically, he was the first one who rejected the division between the diction of the words of poetry and the words of prose, that they should be different. He was the first one to reject this idea that they should be different. Nothing of this nature is mentioned, therefore this is alien. Option D, modern in their underlying, his views about poetic diction were modern in their underlying concern for the impact of the literary work on the sensibility of the reader. Sensibility means emotions of the reader. So yes, it should have an emotional impact. This is what Johnson believed, and that's how his views were different or modern about the poetic diction. It was a nice passage, guys, and the genre was literary criticism. If you faced difficulty, I recommend that you read more such articles on literary criticism so that you become comfortable. In literary criticism, what happens is, some literary critic analyzes or evaluates someone else's work. So Samuel Johnson was a literary critic who analyzed works of literature, and the author of the passage is also probably a literary critic who analyzes works of Samuel Johnson. So there are, it's like a matrix. So Shakespeare wrote something, Samuel Johnson evaluated this work, author of the passage evaluates Samuel Johnson's works. So this is kind of a matrix. Such passages become difficult because there are multiple, characters involved in the passage. So you have to see whose opinion is what. So keep making a mental map of all the characters involved in the passage. That is going to help you a lot. Hope you enjoyed this exercise. Keep working hard. Keep liking these videos. Keep spreading word about TVM Academy. Cheers to learning.